Hi, this is CB, and in this tutorial we're going to cover layer masks, and specifically we're going to talk about making a spot color version of a photo, which is a nice look for a scrapbook page. Spot color is where you have a photo that is pretty much all black and white except for one spot that's in color. There's a way to do that that's popular for teaching. It's a very easy concept to understand, where you have a black and white layer and a color layer on your photo, and then you erase the pixels off the black and white layer to see the color version of below it. But that's actually called destructive editing, and I'm going to teach you with the layer mask how to do that in a way that's better, in my opinion. So the first thing we need to do is make this a black and white photo, and I'm going to use adjustment layers, as I said. Now I'm using CS2, but you can also use, this works with CS, CS3, Mac versions, and even Photoshop Elements, because Photoshop Elements have adjustment layers with layer masks on them. So this works great in any of these programs. So this is where you find the adjustment layers in this little half black, half white circle. Click on it. If you're using Elements, by the way, this whole row is up at the top of the layers palette rather than the bottom, as it is in CS here, CS2. And I'm scrolling down to pick the one that says Hue and Saturation. I know it's off the screen, and I'm sorry. Can't do much about that. So let's desaturate this picture by sliding the saturation slider all the way to the left where it says -100 and hitting OK. Now we've got a new layer in our layers palette. This part is the hue saturation adjustment. This is the layer mask associated with that adjustment, and then we have the black or the color version of the photo, the original version, right above it. With this layer mask, what a layer mask does is wherever it sees white, it's going to make your picture look like what this mask is connected to on the layer. If you see black anywhere on this little layer mask, it lets the layer below it show through, basically. So what we need to do in order to get this to be a spot color photo is we're going to have to paint black on this mask in the area where this stocking is, so that this color of the color version shows through. So first click on it once just to make sure it's selected. It actually is. It's a little hard to tell. There's like these little black edges and white frame around it. And we need black as our foreground color in this case, because we're going to paint with black. So I'm going to just hit the little swap arrows there to do it. We need the brush tool, which is the shortcut B. And I'm going to click the down arrow and pick a brush size of about 48 and a soft edge brush. That's why it's blurry looking. This is the basic brush set that's in Photoshop CS2. So now anywhere I paint, when I'm painting on the picture itself with black, because the layer mask is selected, it's actually going to put the black on the layer mask and not on the photo. What it's going to do to the photo, as you can see, is it's letting the color version show through, as I mentioned. So that's really cool to see that work. As long as you've got the layer mask selected, it's not changing the picture, but rather the mask. And as you can see, when I let go of the mouse button, and if you look at the updated mask, it now shows that black that I'm painting with on it. The next step is we need to go in and get this little tab of the stocking fixed. So I'm going to teach you some shortcuts, because I like shortcuts a lot. You hit the Control button on your keyboard, or Command if you're using a Mac. I've said mask too often today. And the plus key, and push that, and we're zooming in. One other really great tip, some shortcut to learn, is if you hold down the space bar, your tool will turn into the, whatever tool you're using, turns into the hand tool, and then click and sort of drag, move around here, and that gets you anywhere really fast. It's much faster to me than going down and actually selecting the hand tool. And then when you let go of the space bar, it turns back into the tool you need. One other shortcut that we're going to use in this situation, in fact I need to move over a bit more to get that tab, is the left and right bracket keys change the size of your brush. That's the bracket that's sort of square looking. When you hit the left one, it makes it smaller. So now I can paint in this area a little bit without disturbing too many pixels. And now I'm going to move again with the space bar hand tool trick and talk about how, see, we've got a little bit of color that has, the color version is now in the hand more than I want. So what we have to do is go back to the mask and paint with white now to say, hey, I want this particular area to be affected by this change that we made on this layer. So you can flip. You can also use the shortcut of X if you wanted. That changes your foreground and background colors, if you see my thing over there. And then the hand tool again with the space bar, and go here and see I've really got some color that's bled through here. So again, we'll paint that back into black and white. Now the reason for doing this, as I said, this is non-destructive editing, meaning that if I save this file as a layered PSD and then come back to it again, I can make these changes like I'm making with this mask painting at any time. If I were to make a black and white version of this layer, put it above there, and then erase those pixels out of the black and white layer to let the color layer show through, those pixels, especially after you save and then close up the file, they're gone. If you were to see a mistake, like I'm sure there's probably, like right here, I have this one picture always does that. If I were to come back and say, oh dear, I've erased too much at this point, you can't get those pixels back after you've saved and erased and removed those pixels. But in a mask, it's very easy to say, okay, I just need to use white, paint on my mask, and get it back to black and white. So that's really a great tool to have to be able to understand how layer masks work, especially for this spot color in this demonstration. One final shortcut I'm going to mention is I want to see the picture, the whole picture again. So the Control or Command on the Mac plus the 0 key makes it fit back inside the window basically, so you can see the whole thing at once. And I think we've got a really nice looking spot color photo here. I hope this has helped you understand layer masks and how they work a little bit better. As I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg about how masks work, especially if you're using Photoshop, where you can put a mask with this button right down here on any layer. With Photoshop elements, the only way you have masks is associated with these adjustment layers. So anyways, I hope you'll maybe explore masks a little bit more and find out all the fun stuff you can do with them. I'm CB, and thanks for watching.